Hello, welcome to the Wombs of the World podcast. My name is Charlotte Brielle. I am your host and executive director of Wombs of the World, a global movement dedicated to improving maternal health outcomes through education, storytelling, and cross-cultural collaboration. Here on the podcast, we explore how culture is dynamic and birth is universal. This is a space for remembering, for reimagining, and for reclaiming birth as a sacred thread that connects us all. Today, I am joined by my dear friend, Mariela Ayala. She is my comadre, my co-parent in the Wombs of the World Mexico program, and just an all-around incredible human being and midwife. I am so deeply grateful to have Mariela on today, and through our laughter and storytelling and years of friendship, we just get to explore some of the ins and outs of the magic of our work. So you are in for a treat. Mariela, welcome.
Thank you so much for being with us today. To start off, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey into birthwork?
I'm so happy to be here. So I grew up in Mexico City. I am a daughter of a Cuban woman, and she moved to Mexico, met my dad, and then they started a community project in Mexico City where I started being in contact with herbalism and like human rights and like traditional knowledge and just hanging out with very cool people, like doing all these like alternative things and like out of the system kind of thinking. And it was just, I think, something that started, I don't know, like giving me curiosity, like life and herbs and like how to do things different. And I met a midwife there and I started being the nanny of her daughter. And one day she was like, "Oh, I think you could be a good midwife. Have you heard about midwifery?" And I was like, I had no idea what it was, if I had to study medicine. I always thought I was terrible in like science and everything that had to do with like, like medicine and biology and all these things. So I was like, I don't think so. That's like for me. But it was interesting to me, the community aspect to it and like the political part of midwifery. And in that time, I wanted to study like political science. And I wanted to like focus on human rights, especially indigenous rights, because I was like surrounded by this as a kid, and I always thought it was really inspiring. So I thought I was going to be like, okay, how can I defend these people so that they can continue this knowledge, right? And when I learned that the midwife was not just like a doctor or a nurse or, like that it had so much more to it, I was like, well, maybe, like let's see. So I started doing placenta medicine with her. So she
And
taught me.
for our audience, will you tell them how old you were when you got started with placenta medicine? Just to paint the picture
16.
of your story. 16.
Yeah, I was 16 and I was like, I don't know what to study. I don't know. So I finished high school before because I did like a intensive high school thing. I don't know, like I finished high school in like a year and a half. So the rest of the time I was like, I don't know what to do. Like I want to travel or, like should I study now? And I had this like very big resistance for some reason to go to the university, like I was like, I don't know what to study. Like, so I went traveling and to save money, I was like being a nanny and I was, like taking care of the daughter of this midwife. So that's how, I don't know, like somehow I was invited or just like, I don't know, like it was just something that arrived in my life, like out of nowhere. But I never thought I could do it because I was like, well, I have no kids. I don't know anything about babies and like anatomy and like, is it even legal? Like, and then, like, of course, I was not sure what I wanted to do. So I started doing different things and I kind of left it there. But it was something that always kind of like stayed in my heart.
Will you explain the path to midwifery in Mexico and how that works?
So it's really complicated. It's like there's no straight path. So you need to find either, like, if you want to train as a traditional midwife, so like out of the system, kind of like non-academic, no bachelor, like just you need to find a mentor that will teach you and take you to births and explain you things. And there's not many midwives that are open to do that, because I understand, like it's hard. Like you already have your, like your rhythm, and I don't know, like there's many things that make it complicated. So that's one way. Or another one's just to find like workshops, or like, like things, and one workshop here, one workshop there, and try to like start reading things and hanging out with people, or train as a doula and then start going to births and observing. Like I think it's very like empiric. Like I had to like, I don't know, like I had to read so many books, and like I I was lucky that I have very good like friends that were studying medicine at the time, and they were like, "Oh, there's this book about like neonatal resuscitation," and I was like, "Well, I have no idea about any of this." So I was just like finding workshops, or like starting to hang out with midwives, and kind of like, I don't know, like it was just a lot of like knocking doors and trying to find someone that would open, and
Mhm.
it took me a while to just like really feel like I was doing something, because it felt like everything was really in the air. The other way is just to, right now things are changing, like in Mexico with midwifery. Like they want to make it more like, they want to like medicalize it and
Regulate it. Have
regulate
it be
it
much more
and stuff.
regulated.
So they're trying to like, I don't know, like to have bachelors, but they are like nursing. Like they don't really have like any midwife teaching in a midwifery bachelor. So it's just kind of random. Like, it feels like they don't want midwifery to exist the way it does.
Well, I feel as though the way that it exists in Mexico is fairly unique. To be a recognized traditional midwife, what you're saying of, it's very self-study, where you find a mentor and it's from experience that you can then be a midwife and recognized by the state as a traditional midwife.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's a whole thing, and every state has its own kind of like rules and things, and I don't know, there's no straight way to get there, but I feel like now there's more options. Like it's becoming more and more accessible, like either to study a bachelor, even if it's, in my opinion, not the best option, you can, like there's a way to get there. And it's not like, where should I go? Like, who should I ask? So I had to go like move places to like different cities to find ways to learn out of the country. Like I had to like move around, because I didn't find enough options where I was.
And most recently, you have been following the track to sit and pass the NARM. Congratulations. That's a huge deal. But to do that, you had to jump through like North American midwifery hoops, and you've been catching a whole lot of babies in El Paso, Texas.
Yeah. It was
So you've been literally all over the world pursuing this knowledge.
Yeah, it has been amazing to see how, like, from traditional midwifery, and like my own way of understanding it, then jumping to protocols and like clinic and like just a different perspective. It was really interesting, and I really had a good experience. Like I learned so much, and I think like just having that range of options and like resources is just really important for every midwife. Like I feel like I was just like, at some point I was like, okay, but what if this happens and I don't have resources, like I don't have knowledge. I don't feel that comfortable with the knowledge I have in the clinical aspects of midwifery, right? So I was like, I need to learn these parts too, because most of births are beautiful and life just happens, right? But like some of them can be a little bit more challenging. And so going to the US, where it's a little bit more like focused on that, like clinical aspects of birth, respecting physiology and everything, but like less spiritual in a way.
Yeah, birth is very medicalized in the US. Even just like culturally, it's so medicalized. It's viewed very much as a medical event.
Because what I've learned is that midwives in Mexico, or traditional midwives, take the role of the doula as well. So it's like I support you, I give you massage, I rub your back, we talk about your feelings, I hold you, but I also take care of your vital signs and catch the baby and check everything's fine, right? In the US is more like the midwife is just going to take the vital signs, check that everything's fine. In the physical body, in the physical aspect. Like it's not like they're going to rub your back. I mean, from what I saw, it was like
Yeah, depends on the midwife.
a big difference between roles. Like they do respect this is the role of the doula and this is the role of the midwife. And I was used to do both because I also trained as a doula. So I was just like, okay, like how do I get, like how can I also like share what I know and like, I don't know, bring a little bit of my essence to those births, and also how can I just understand that it's different, and I learned so much and it was also a very, very good experience to have different perspectives and just having so much, I don't know, like having all the options and knowing that you don't need to go for the clinical one, but you have it there, like it's part of, I don't know.
Well, something that we talk about a lot that's like a very central theme in all things wombs of the world is bridging the ceremony of birth with the medicalization of birth because like you said, birth often just happens. The body knows what to do. We've been literally doing this since the dawn of humanity. And things can also be complicated. It's called the miracle of childbirth for a reason. And so bridging those two is essential. And I think what you're all about, like a big part of your practice. Do you have a vision on what birth could be like or what you would like to see birth be?
It's a good question. So I definitely think women should have always the option to choose whatever makes them feel comfortable. Doesn't matter where. Like I do think so that we should, me personally, I think births should happen more often outside of a hospital, at a birth center, at home, like, but also like if a woman feels comfortable in a hospital setting, it should be a safe experience for her, And yeah, like just I feel like it's all about freedom and just allowing birth to happen naturally and just like for us as birth workers to have the intuition to observe really and to even smell and sense what's happening without being like all over the woman and like just giving that space and knowing where we should just observe, check that everything's okay. Of course, like listen to the baby, like, I don't know, like give that support, but let the woman be in the process. Yeah, like just like for us as midwives to also know when we are supposed to do something. Because I feel like that's the hard part of it. Like sometimes it's like, okay, no, we should always be hands off, right? And that's sometimes also not true. Like sometimes you do need to do things, right? Or some midwives are like, oh no, we should be there and like check all the time. Like it's like, I think we need to find a balance between those two and understanding that it's not our moment. It's a moment of that mom and that baby, and we're not the main, like character, or we are not gonna direct how things are gonna go. So
Totally.
for me, that's been like a very interesting thing to learn. Like when I'm needed, when I'm not needed. Yeah, I think that's something that I'm still learning, of course. And I was like, like from the first contraction, I was there, like ready. And then I was so exhausted. The mom was like, oh, why is nothing happening? And the midwives has been here for like 10 hours and, like, and just not giving that intimacy affected the vibe, like the woman,
Totally.
I don't know, like her sense of freedom. So I feel like it's just knowing when you're needed and just like now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go home and you're still, like you do your thing and I'll come back and leave and come back and just like not be in your face.
But I hear you completely. I think that when we're getting started in birth work, we're so eager. We're so
Yeah.
eager to ride every single wave. And then the more experienced birth workers I know, they're the ones that are like in the corner quiet disappearing versus the younger, very eager doulas are like literally squeezing every single time there's a contraction, and they're just like, so present with mom. And I think that both are beautiful, but I love your observation here that what you're learning is how to step back and letting the mom really tune into herself. And I feel as though that's so many women are so disconnected from their bodies, generally speaking, like being able, and birth is the most primal thing there is. And so, even just telling a woman to like be present with her body and feel it out and ride those waves, like, for instance, a contraction hurts, right? Like that's, and so how do you, it's not standard for us to melt and to release into that, which is what needs to happen in birth. Like you have to surrender to the experience. And so if a woman, if a birthing person doesn't have that connection to their body because we were conditioned, at least in the West, to be so disconnected from our bodies, do you like coach your clients ahead of time, or do you feel as though because of the specific practice that you have, the clients that find you are women who are already more intuitively connected with themselves?
So I was actually thinking, like, I think I've had, like, I was talking with my friend that she's also midwife, like how like women from the city sometimes, they're super healthy and do like all these like prenatal yoga and like hypnobirthing and orgasmic birth training and like all the trainings they can find. And they're the ones that can't release control. And it's just so hard. Like they have all this information, they've invested so much money in all these trainings, and like they have all the tools, all the things, and they can't release control.
Mm-hmm.
We're used in the city to always be like in our heads, right? And
Yeah.
like what
Mm-hmm.
time is it and how long and why, and like all these things. And it's harder to go down to the body. And women that live in like more rural areas, or like that even have seen how like animals give birth, or they have a ranch, or they live like in some, like it's just different. It's just they
Mm-hmm.
might not have any training, or they didn't do anything in their pregnancy to prepare for birth, but they're able to just like let the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, one of my favorite affirmations in birth is to tell moms, I'm like, get out of your head and into your body. Like you're not
yeah,
birthing with your head. Like you're
exactly.
not birthing, and the midwives in Tanzania say that too. They're like, into your body, into your body. That took me my first time hearing them say that. I was like, what are you talking about? But it's true. Like our
Mhm.
brain is our
So
biggest
true.
obstacle in birth.
It's just overthinking and wanting to control the situation. And for us, it's also like trying to bring that woman down to her body. Of course,
Mm,
prenatal care, it's super important to know the woman, you know,
mm-hmm.
and to also see, okay, like she might need this kind of support, or she might need less support in this aspect and more in the, just like, just to get to know each other and build that trust. I feel like that's the most important thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just like for her to feel safe to break, because that needs to happen,
Oof.
and
Mm-hmm.
to jump to that, like, like mystery of life, and know that she's gonna be taken care of, right, and her baby as well. So I think building that trust and that like connection with the mom and the family during the prenatal care is really important. And also just for her to be open to share, oh, I'm scared of this, or I know I'm like to control things, and I know that's going to be hard for me. We can find resources that will help her like self-regulate, or to know like, okay, right now I'm doing this from my mind, and like, and she can say it,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can like find a way together to move past it. So yeah, it's I think like we all have that resistance at some point. Like it's scary, like it hurts, it's, you don't know what's gonna happen, like how long it will be. But I think, yeah, like just like allowing the body to do and the hormones to do like what they have to, and just like, yeah, melt and try to not fight. And if you fight, just like, yeah, like allow yourself to break.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when the baby usually comes, like when there's this release, like, I don't know, it's really.
Absolutely. I feel like that's the relationship that you build with your client ahead of time creates like this bubble of safety around both of you and around this experience. And I think that that is, the question I was asking you earlier about bridging the ceremonial and the medical. I think that that's one of the biggest pieces missing in the medical system of birth, is that there's not nearly enough time invested in the bond between the provider and, because literally it's like the doctor and the patient. And we don't call moms patients, we call them clients, or the mamas, or but they're not our patients because they're not sick. And so that's and that's like feedback that you get all the time from moms who have births within the hospital system, especially sometimes in big hospitals. The doctor that comes in and catches their baby, it's their first time ever seeing them.
Yeah.
It's like a rotation of people, and like nurses that come in. What you were saying earlier, like sometimes a hospital birth is so necessary. Like cesareans save lives, and some moms are high risk and we need extra support. And that is the miracle of medicine, which is why we're looking for that bridge. But we hear this all the time, that moms felt completely dismissed or not seen by the medical providers around them. And so I think that that is one of the most beautiful things about midwifery and midwives, is that extra time, like that intentional extra time in that relationship that you build with your client is how they're going to feel safe. And then also how you're going to know how to support them in birth, their backstory. So as you were getting started, so again, like you got started so young in your journey of midwifery, like you heard that, well, you were very much literally invited into the inner circle of birthwork at 16 years old doing placenta work, which is just, I find, when I met you for the first time and learned how young you were and that you got started like literally pursuing midwifery at 17 years old, I was mind blown. But then I was like, I learned what a doula was at 19 and I heard the call as well, but it just took me a few extra years to get going. So I'm curious if you remember some of those first births that you attended, and if there were any that felt particularly impactful or formative, or that really stuck with you as births that contributed to who you are as a midwife today.
Yes, definitely. I think all of them have been different and unique. Well, I think the first birth I saw was just like mind blowing, like
Tell us.
I couldn't understand how that baby that was already crying and like moving, not that tiny body, was inside of that woman for so long. Like, I was like, how
mind blowing.
is this happening? It's just crazy to me. Every time it's just like,
it never ceases to amaze me, ever.
It's crazy.
It's wild.
And just how the body can open that way, right? Like the strength of. So I think I was like 18 or 19, like the first time I went to a birth. And I think I was 18. And I was just like, it was just like, I didn't know the woman before, which was also interesting because the other midwife I was with, she was like, "Oh, well, I have a birth now. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Of course. Like I've been waiting for this moment, right?" And then we got there, and it was just like, it was outside of the city. It was like in a small town, and it was like there was a fire, and it was like really traditional, like, I don't know, like copal and the rebozo, and it was just like her mom was there. Like, it was like a family event, which was also really interesting to see because I don't know, like I thought, like, right, like in hospitals, like, okay, you go with your partner and that's it. And I also like that intimacy, but like just seeing like the dad just like preparing something to eat and the mom just like supporting her daughter, and like, like the other kid running around, like it just seemed like such a normal day, like. And yeah, that baby came really quick. It was her third baby, so it
Nice.
wasn't like a super long, like 24-hour birth that, like it was just so quickly and beautiful and like straightforward. It was just, for me, it was like, oh my God, this is it. It's not, you don't need to be connected to thousands of machines and liquids and giving like this is just like how it is. Because I was really curious and how, you prepare the setting. Like I was very naive and, like I didn't know how to expect it. It was my first birth ever. Like I was never in a hospital birth, which was a different experience to then, see the difference. And it was just beautiful. Like it was just like a normal day party, like family event. And that was like, I I think I could do this, And then, of course, I started going to different births, and ones were more challenging than others, in the way that longer, that required more, I don't know, more like, how do you say this? Require the midwives to be more creative, like which plan should I give her? How should I support her? Because it's like, it's also hard, to support a woman that it's in pain, and sometimes she's like, I'm done, I want to go, and this is,
Mm-hmm.
and like,
Totally.
but she doesn't really want to go. So how do you know, like, and how close is she? And like, it was really beautiful because with the midwives I first learned, like, none of them did vaginal exams, none of them did many things, so they just knew that the baby was close out of the smell of the room, out of the noises the woman was making.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really nice to learn that first,
Yeah.
and then I learned how to do vaginal exams when they're necessary, but you don't need to when you observe and you understand the stages of birth, and not in the clinical aspects of like, first, like every 2 minutes, and, like she needs to dilate like 1 centimeter per hour, like all those rules
Mm-hmm. Yes,
written
absolutely.
by men, right?
Put into a spreadsheet.
Exactly. Like, it's just like out of like the noises. Like, if it's a high pitched noise, she's not there yet.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
it's like the lion and the like going down the
Mm-hmm.
earth. It's like, okay, get your gloves, like having that experience was so beautiful. And then, like, when I started like learning the other part, I was like, okay, yeah, I was I would say to myself, like, I think she's 8 centimeters just by the way she's like, and then I would confirm it, and I was like, okay, so you don't need
Nice.
to do this, like, you start building that also trust with your own skills, right? And so, yeah, like, I think like every birth has been beautiful. I've seen like very different women giving birth. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
from very different contexts, like from the border of the US, like women that cross the bridge with their, like water broken just to get like some good care without violence, and like, well, the benefits of doing that, in their context. And like indigenous women connected with their land and traditions, or like very religious, like women that trust and just like are able to release control because they have that huge trust to God, like,
Mm-hmm.
or very rational, like city, like structure, like, and it's just like, it's just beautiful. And as you say, like, birth is universal. Like, woman, it's the same language. I had a woman from Abu Dhabi came to Mexico to birth with me, and it was just like such an amazing experience. Like, we didn't speak the same language. She didn't speak English. She just
Wow.
spoke Arabic. Like, we translated through him, through the husband. It was Ramadan, so there was like fasting going on, and the Quran playing in the back, and like it was just like dates everywhere, like it was just like, this is so awesome. And she birthed just like any other woman, right? Like,
Yep.
so I don't know, like, it was just so beautiful to see that it's an universal language, like, we just need
Beautiful.
to and sometimes words are not that necessary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can support with, in a different way, that it's not necessarily like saying, you can do it, come on, you can do it. Like, just I think she knew we were there for her,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why she was able to do that in a different country, in a different language, in a different cultural completely, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know, it's just very inspiring just to see
Mm-hmm.
how we can all just leave our own perfect birth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes me think of when we go to Tanzania and,
Mhm.
the traveling doulas don't speak Swahili, but they will doula all day long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, birth is the most universal of language, and women supporting each other in birth and witnessing each other and holding that space is ancient. It's
Mhm.
ancient. And I think that that's where the rise of the doula is coming up, and the rise of the midwife again. Not that the midwife has ever disappeared, but the collective around the birthing person has been all but erased. Like, the medicalization of birth worldwide has really pushed birth behind so many closed doors and locked doors. Like when you're in a clinic, it's not just, you're behind some doors, like you are literally locked away. And so the birthing at home, I love that story of your first birth, of it just being another day in the life, because again, birth is everything. We are all born. Every single human that has ever been on the planet has grown in the womb of a woman and has been born one of two ways.
And the most challenging, like just thinking now, like for me, the most challenging birth, and my biggest, I think what I'm working on, and like, like that I see that it's something that as midwives is hard, or as doulas, is when you have a home birth and then you need to transfer, right?
Mm.
And it's not in your control, because you know that something is out of your scope of practice. Like you don't want to put anyone at risk. And well, that's your job,
Yep.
right? Like to know when it's not.
Totally.
Right. But just like that feeling of like, man, like, like even as midwives or as doulas, like, what if I would have done this, or why didn't? And
Totally.
sometimes I've had experiences of women that also put the midwife and the doula in like a very high place, and they also give that responsibility. Well, why couldn't you help me more? Why, like,
yeah,
like also, like it's hard also as midwives and doulas and mothers too. And I think that's something that we really need to like talk before the birth. Like nobody wants to transfer, but let's talk about it. Like what would that mean? Like how would that impact you emotionally, or how would that affect our relationship? Because for me, it's like most of the cases, it's not just like, oh, she's my client. Like we become kind of like even friends in a way, right? So for me, I think that's something that, because it's so different worlds, it's a big shock to go from home to a hospital setting where, okay, now you need to do this, and let me just, and a light and nurses, and like it's just such a big difference, right? For everyone, especially for the mama, of course, that I feel like that's a topic that it's not spoken of much, how we as midwives deal with that, with a transfer, with a birth that, even if it wasn't our birth, our control, and it wasn't my story, how that affects me also, like, and it sometimes even it becomes like, I don't know, like I feel like even some midwives would take responsibility. And it comes back to, that's not your story. That was not, like you were there to support, you did what you have to, but that was not your story.
Yeah.
But it's hard, to just like also separate yourself from someone that you care about, and for, like, I don't know, like it's just, I think for me, that's the most challenging like aspect of home birth, like the possibility of a transfer that it's not well handled, or from the parents, like that they're like, oh well, it was your fault, maybe as the midwife or the doula, that you didn't do enough, or the failure that they can feel, and like it's just hard to process and integrate.
Absolutely. And when you have I remember having a conversation with a circle of birth workers months ago about how after a birth, we oftentimes, we doulas, we show up at our client's house, a mama's house, and we offer her ceremony, and we really tend to the mom. And then one of the birth workers in the circle was talking about how her collective, they also offer ceremony to the midwife and to the doula, because it's so much energy for you all as well. For us, like, we give so much. And, birth is such a, I know you agree with this, but like birth is such a deeply spiritual experience. And it's one of the greatest honors and ceremonies to witness. And it's literally, I believe that it's literally a portal opening. We get to witness this veil be so thin, and so much can happen, and so much can go wrong, and you're holding so much. And of course we want to stay super positive, and we want her to connect with her body, and we want like just birth to be the most natural thing ever. But there's so many twists and turns that birth can take, especially for the baby. We don't know that person yet.
Yeah.
So we don't know how they're going to respond to being squeezed hundreds and hundreds of times. Like we just don't know how they're going to go about it. And so when you have to have a transfer, or from my experience, when a mom, is having a great labor at the hospital and then it ends up in a C-section, the hardest recovery for them is emotional, so much more than physical. It's like the trauma of that unexpected shift. And of course, a C-section is a very intense experience. Okay, all that to say, my question for you is, how do you take care of yourself? Like, what is your general self-care to handle so much energy and to hold so much? And it's so much responsibility. So how do you do it?
I think, yeah, like I've been learning how to, because I definitely, like, last year it was very intense, and also I started seeing births that were not the births I was used to, that were easy, most of the like we were dealing with more like high risk, like medium risk to high risk women, and I saw more like complications that I wasn't used to. And I felt good because I was supported by other midwives that had experience in it. But it did make me think, like, oh my God, like this is a lot, and just feeling tired and integrating, and like, yeah, like I feel like I definitely think rest is needed. So like sleeping for a day just after a hard birth, and just like giving myself like some comfort food, and just like try to relax and talk to people that I know that will understand me. Like,
Yeah,
I think just
community.
having my community, like just texting my friends that are doulas or midwives and telling them like, hey, this happened, or oh my God, I feel this way, like I don't know if I'm able to do this anymore, or if I have what it takes, like, because of course we all have those thoughts, and just being able to share them and communicate them and feel supported by your tribe, and knowing that you're not alone. Like all of those women have said, yeah, I know it happens sometimes, but it will go away, like just, and okay, I'll give you a massage, or I can close you with the rebozo, or I can, like there's always like beautiful offers, like people offer so many like love and support, so I think it's just knowing how, like knowing when to ask for help, and
Totally.
when you need a break. Like sometimes you just need to be off call and be able
Yep.
to just go out and have fun without checking your phone every 5 minutes. Like just like giving us that space, and not just also becoming addicted to the adrenaline that comes with birth and being on call. And I think I've seen many midwives that are burnout, because they're always just taking care of others, right?
Yep.
And so I think that's really, really, really important for us, is like to support each other and say, hey, you need to slow down, like, or I'll give you a massage, or let's just go for lunch and try it out, or let's talk about it, or how can I support you? Or, like, just, I don't know,
Absolutely.
more
You
communication. Yeah.
Yeah, you just mentioned like closing with a rebozo.
Yeah.
Will you describe, so one of, obviously, like the tagline is culture is dynamic, birth is universal, and the rebozo practice in Mexico is so beautiful and so special. Can you describe it, talk about it a little bit to our audience,
Yes.
to me, to the me, all of us behind me?
So the rebozo is, it's just like in Mexico, it's just part, like a very active part of midwifery and motherhood, and like many other things. Like it's an extension of the heart. That's how we call it. Like it's just a way like the rebozo is gonna hug you and give you that kind of like squeeze you need to feel better. It's just,
For context for people, it's essentially a shawl.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it's used to carry the baby, it's used to carry other things, it's used to cover, it's used to, like it has so many like uses. But in labor or in birth work, it's also used to, yeah, like to release tension, to give relaxation to the mom, to put the baby, to engage the baby, to disengage the baby. Like it's used in so many different ways, to open the pelvis. I don't know, like it's just like so versatile and amazing. And it's also a way of just caring for the other person. You don't need to be pregnant or in a postpartum. It could be like after a miscarriage or an abortion, or like, it can also be after a big loss. like after a big shock or something happened, like just put yourself back together because it's like squeeze you back together and leaves you there
Mhm.
as a cocoon, or like
Mhm.
just enough time for you to come back together for the pieces to join back again,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
During postpartum is really important to give like a bath with to bathe the woman with herbs, give her a massage, as we call it sobada, like to to give her that like love and nourishment and support, and then to close her with the rebozo. And my friends, like do it whenever I have a bad day, or I do it to them, like just because we know that it's just,
Lovely.
yeah. So yeah,
It's so nice.
the
Yeah,
rebozo is,
it's a full body hug.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And grandmas would always have a rebozo with them in Mexico, so it feels just like the hug of your grandma that loves you. It's just like the extension of that kind of like you're safe. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that maternal, I mean, I love that. That's like the lineage of the mother right there in the hug.
yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, I have one kind of random question
Okay.
to close us out with. If you hypothetically in the future choose to have a baby, what would you like your birth to look like? Can you paint a picture of what Mariela's ideal birth would be?
Oh, wow, I've thought about this many times.
I know we all have. How can you not?
Well, it would definitely be at home if, I hope to have a low risk healthy pregnancy, and yeah, like I would love to have my baby at home. I would really like a lot of intimacy. Um I definitely want a midwife, but I don't know if I want like many outside people, like
Mhm.
I would like to be just like with my partner doing my thing, and just like also having like that normal day experience, like just like having fun and laughing and like I don't know, just like enjoying myself. And I hope I'm able to melt. Really, I'm working on it already, every time. Like, yeah, and just like being able to be raw and wild and scream if I want to and cry if I want to, and like just like be myself, like my wildest self. Like I would love for that to happen. And yeah, just like catch my own baby, or
Cool.
whoever baby daddy will be, catch the baby. Like
Mhm.
just an intimate experience. But who knows? I also don't want to think about it too much, because then you have a
Absolutely. It's a hypothetical. It was an invitation to dream, but also I know that it's, birth rarely goes according to plan, and back to the one of the hardest parts of recovery is releasing the attachment to the outcome.
I think that's a hard
So,
part. Like I know my doula friends and my midwife friends that are pregnant or having a baby. The hardest part is knowing that birth is rough and you don't know what's going to happen, and not like projecting yourself in like other women's experience, because we've been in so many like different births, and not trying to be, oh, maybe this will happen as it happened to whoever, or like just
yeah,
live your
releasing our own agenda.
yeah, and not be all the
Yeah.
thinking and thinking. Well, it is like I don't know, it's always there. And I feel like so many people, I just find it so strange that it happens to everyone. And I don't think so people talk about it. Like we talk about it, right? Because we're obsessed with it.
Obsessed?
I love like being at a party and being like, "Oh, and what do you do?" "Oh, I'm a midwife." "Oh, really? What is that?"
Why?
Like showing them a birth video, random. And they're like, "Oh my god, I think I've never seen something like this." And they're like 35-year-old men. And it's like, well, like it's just like, or woman, it's like
Mhm, totally.
placenta comes out first or after. It's just like so
Yeah.
random that it
What's a placenta?
yeah, like that it's such a like they just like cut off birth out of our social understanding, right? So
Mhm.
just bringing it back and just like normalizing it, I feel like it's just also really important for people to
Couldn't
see that
agree
it's
more.
not like, I don't know, like we're used to seeing so many like violent video games and horrible things happen in our Instagram, real life horrible things, and we just scroll, but a birth is like oh my God, I can't see that, and it's the most beautiful thing ever.
Mariela, thank you so much for the work that you do in the world. Thank you for being my co-parent in the Mexico program and Wombs of the World. Thank you just for everything that you do. And thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me. You're awesome. I love it.
And I love you, and we will see each other soon.
Yes. Thank you. I love you. Mwah.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's conversation with the incredible Mariela. These dialogues remind us that culture is dynamic, but birth is universal, and that by listening, learning, and remembering together, we begin to weave a stronger, more connected future for maternal health. If today's episode moved you, we invite you to share it with your community, leave us a review, and continue the conversation with us online. You can find more about our programs, trainings, and upcoming gatherings at wombsoftheworld.com and on Instagram at wombsoftheworld. Until next time, may you walk gently, honor your body as sacred, and carry forward the wisdom that birth belongs to all of us. Mwah.